Okay, so by covering cushions, the patio outdoor set. Here are the previous covers. So this is an extra service that you could charge for your, within your sewing business. It's all about, it's all about being versatile in the services that you offer. If you do alterations, you can also maybe, offer to do cushion covering. You can do curtaining. You can do blinds. A little bit of interior decorating as well, if that is something that you enjoy doing. So what I've done is I've taken the covers off the cushions and I have laid them down, and I've taken the tape measure and I've measured exactly the width, and the length of the actual cushion covers. I'm going to put seams on both sides. So I'm going to give myself 1.5 centimeter seam on either side. I'm going to put, the bottom's going to have a seam, and then on the top, I'm not going to put Velcro, I'm going to put zips in. So I'm not going to have this overflap coming over. I'm going to have a zip coming on the top of the cushion. So I'm also going to do like a little box pleat like here at the bottom. I'm going to do the exactly same little fold pleat in the front and put the zip in the center and not do the Velcro. So now I've basically have drawn the layout of the cushions, and I'm working out the measurements. I've taken the measurements on the actual cushion, and I'm adding seam allowance as well. And I'm also sort of thinking about how I'm going to construct and put it together. Like this particular one is on the fold over here, but I'm going to put a seam on both sides because it makes it easier for me when I get to the top to put a zip in. Now, you must decide as a business side what it is that you want to offer and all the extra services that you can offer, and kind of stick to that and build a reputation around those particular things. Like for instance, like I mentioned, curtaining, cushion covers, patio, furniture covering. Those are things that you can offer. It's not going to take you a lot of time to do it, but you can charge a fair amount and make a very good living out of it as well. And it's word of mouth. People will start talking and telling their friends about what amazing job you've done, and before you know it, people know about your services, and your business will just grow strength to strength if you give them a good quality and a good service, whatever you're offering them, whatever you give them at the end of your product delivery, that they're excited and happy with what you have done. Make sure that when you take the previous cover off, you do a thorough measurement, do the width, do the length, allow for seam allowance, for zip allowance, any extra sort of little ease that you want to do, then trace off your pattern, take all your measurements, and then you just start tracing your pattern, and you know exactly how much fabric to purchase and any extras that you need with it, like whether you can do Velcro, studs, or a zip. It's all about planning and being very organized by taking the correct measurements, drafting up a pattern, so you're not just doing this by eyeballing it. It's important that you're very accurate, that the fit is absolutely perfect, because you want your business to grow and you want your customers to be happy with the service that you're giving them, that they're going to come back to you, they're going to tell their friends, and that's how it grows. Before you know it, you'll be so busy. Alright, so this is the top, the ends of the actual cushion cover, which goes on the main seat, the double-seater seat. Okay, so what I'm doing is I've overlocked the two top edges, because this is the long side, and that is basically the width, and this is the length going down. So this area here is about 1.26 centimeters, and this here is around about 60 centimeters. Alright, so I got a zip. So first what I did was I overlocked the opening, which is going to be the opening and closure of the actual pocket of the cover, so that the foam can fit into the top area. Okay, so I've overlocked both edges. Now I will put right sides together, so right sides are touching. The zip's a little bit shorter because I want to do that little envelope sort of box, little sort of tuck on the sides to create a squareness to fit to have a better fitting for this actual square sponge that comes in inside this cover. So on either side here we'll do the envelope like box little pleat. Okay, so now I'm just going to mark more or less where the zip's going to be. So I gave myself a 2 centimeter seam allowance for the zip. So now what I'll do is I'm going to close the seam, 2 centimeter seam allowance from where the zip end is to the edge of the actual cover. I'm going to give that a secure stitch, and on this side as well. So I'm going to do quite a few reverse stitching over here to make sure it secures and doesn't pop open when you bring the foam through. I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to basically fold this open have this opening here, put the zip on the inside, fold back 2 centimeters and put the zip in like that. And then just top stitch it down on either side of the zip teeth. So now I'm basically doing one stitch to secure the zip, and I'm stitching it down all in one row of stitching. So doing me first stitching the zip and then doing a top stitching on top of it. So I'm going to first stitch the closures of the opening, and then I'm going to pin the zip in and then stitch it down. Alright, this is the sides of the actual cover of the cushion. I've just closed the zip, so now I'm going to stitch around the actual sides and the bottom of the cushion cover. I'm going to keep the zip open, so once I've stitched it all closed I can bag it out through the zip. But before I do that, I'm just going to stitch all the way around the actual cover, and then I'm going to overlock the seams together. By sewing them together, I'm actually saving time and I'm saving thread, and you can just do this all together in one go. You don't have to do them separate with this particular cushion cover. Okay, here's the bottom of the cover. Alright, that is the bottom seam, this is the side seam. Okay, so now I'm just going to do a corner. So this seam and that seam needs to align. So you can put your hand inside the cover and you can actually feel where the seams are. Sort of just open up as much as you can, nothing's folded and tucked underneath. So this seam, alright, the bottom seam and the top seam are completely aligned. So now you can see you've got like a little triangle. It's almost like an envelope. So I measured the width of the actual sponge and it works out to be about 7 centimeters. So coming down this line, the fold, I take my tape measure and I measure across from that seam to the edge of the fold, and I look for 3.5 centimeters, which is there. So I'm going to sew a straight line going right across. So there's 3.5 centimeters, that's 3.5. So when you bag it out, it becomes 7 centimeters, the width of the actual sponge that's in this, that'll fit in the cover, that's on the patio set. Alright, so there I've marked with the pen. You'll do this with all 4 corners. It's It's very similar when you do a tote bag, little tote handbag, you do the corners. Okay, so there we go. Alright, so you'll do it to this corner as well. And with the zippies, I've done the one side with the zippies. So now you can see here is the zip opening. Okay, there is the fold I've stitched across. I made sure that this seam on the side and the top seam completely aligned. You can feel it with your fingers. Okay, we can put your hand inside and feel it. So if I pull this out to the right side, this is what you're getting. Like a little box. So that the actual square edging of the foam fits in perfectly inside the cover. Because the original cover didn't have side seams on both sides, only on one side. So I decided to put a side seam on either side so I can create this box effect on the top by the zip area and at the bottom area of the covers to make it look more professional. And there's the zip opening and closure. So do this to all the corners. Here's the previous cover. I just did an overflap with Velcro on. And then a very clever idea is for the inside the foam to use something that's a little bit slippery so it's easy for the sponge to actually slide into your actual cover, is to maybe use some organza on the outside of the sponge, because to put a raw sponge in, it is so difficult to put into a cover. So the organza definitely does make it an easier process. It's like doing gym, yeah. Okay, so there it is. There's the new cover with the corners. Okay, let's put this in.